All started in a state legislature, but the Tennessee Three's calls for gun safety reform and their warnings against threats to democracy have captured the attention of the nation. I continued my exclusive conversation with them by asking about the bigger picture, including potential legal remedies and whether, after meetings with the president and the vice president, they would call on the Justice Department to investigate the situation. Here's how former Representative Justin Pearson responded.
So we're really fortunate that a number of attorneys, firms, organizations have reached out if there are ways that we can or should pursue legal remedies to our expulsions, which are clearly wrong, unjustified, unconstitutional, and they're just immoral because folks don't like when you talk about issues that matter, when you actually want to see an end to gun violence, when you actually want to see an end to lynchings and all of the ways and forms it takes in this state. We are fortunate that a lot of folks have reached out, and we're hopeful that the will of the people continues to go forward with potential reappointments and with potential elections, special elections coming forward as well.
But I just have to press on this issue, because if you are saying that the resolution, which is let them tell it, a binding document, right, that has passed by a 2/3 majority. If you're saying in that resolution that it says you all cannot be seated again until the next legislative session, which is 2025, and let's just say you all are voted to your state municipalities send you, your city municipality, your municipalities send, your locals send you back to the state legislature. It would seem to me that there is a legal challenge here. And at the end of the day, is there not a role for the Department of Justice to play?
Absolutely.
I mean,
yes. I mean, that is something we can ask for, and I'm willing to do that.
Yeah.
This whole process has been, a farce of our due process. It's been a farce of our constitutional, system of government. And so, I mean, everything about this, I mean, even the trial that they had, it was the verdict was decided before we even started talking, because the jury, the quote unquote, our colleagues, were announcing in the media saying that we, creating this myth of insurrection, creating this myth that we were violent. And so there was no due process in this. There's nothing about this that it was followed. They talked about, we were out of order. This whole process of expulsion was out of order. This whole process of expulsion was an affront to any decorum or any decency or any, system of balance that we're supposed to have in our government. And it was one man's decision. Speaker Cameron Sexton, who went on the news after that first protest, lied on these children and mothers, and then had to go from there to cover up his tracks and justify him calling a mourning community, children who came to the Capitol, mothers and grandparents and community members, clergy, calling them insurrectionists. So much so that I had children and families call me for the next protest and say, is it still safe to come? Is what the speaker said going to put my child's life at danger if they do the student walkout? Because is this a dog whistle to the Proud Boys? What is this? Why would he lie? Why would the Speaker of the House, one of the most powerful men in Tennessee, lie?
I know we have to go shortly, but what did you ask the president or the vice president for today?
I think one of the main things is support in this movement. Right? We knew and we said from the start, we're not going to quit fighting. And that's the reality. We cannot quit fighting. And for everyone who has supported the Tennessee Three, everyone who has supported an end to gun violence, everybody who cares about democracy and the use of the First Amendment rights to protest and to ask for and advocate for change, it is in order that we might see it. And we believe it's still possible, even in a state like this, that real gun reform legislation that protects communities, that protects schools, is possible. And is going to be a people-powered movement that is persistent and consistent on the issue. It's not going to be the pontification that comes from Cameron Sexton and all of the Republicans that really does not lead to solutions that could have saved any child's life. Couldn't have saved Larry's life or Dr. Nelson's life. It's going to be us advocating for real laws like red flag laws, background checks, the end of the use of AR-15s in our community. That's what's going to work. And we asked the president and the vice president for their support in this effort here in Tennessee, in the South, right, where too many people too easily give up on what is possible here, but where the change that America needs must happen.
What does support look like?
I think one action of solidarity that we saw that was so important was that the Vice President of the United States cleared her schedule to make an emergency stop in Tennessee
Yes.
because a crime happened yesterday. Because we're in a state of emergency in Tennessee with this undoing of the will of voters. I think that was an important action of solidarity, and we know that it's not going to end there because, you know, so often people look over states like Tennessee, and for so long we felt alone. What the nation has seen, what the world has seen, is just another day in the Tennessee General Assembly. It's just another day of going to work there, and a lot of people were shocked. They were outraged, and they said, and the thing is, they didn't realize they were on good behavior yesterday.
Right.
Yeah.
They were
That's the
tame.
thing. Yeah.
They knew they were being watched.
There was people in the galleries, there were media from around the world watching them. And even at their tame, you saw what we were dealing with. And so I think it's so important to have the president and the vice president stand in solidarity, not with just us, but with the communities and movements that we were up there representing. Because we went into that well, none of us walked as individuals, we went as representatives.
That's right.
As legislators, as advocates for our communities. And so them coming here to Tennessee is sending a clear message that Speaker Sexton and these extremists who've hijacked our legislature, that it's not going to go without accountability, that there is going to be a redress of what happened. Because what's going to happen is that if this was allowed to go unchallenged, what they did to us and what they did to this state would be replicated in other states across this nation.
That's exactly right.
Lastly, you talked about Monday. What is happening this upcoming week, and do y'all feel safe?
That's an excellent question, because one of the most progressive voices in Tennessee in the media, the day, 2 days after maybe, the speaker got on television and said how he was afraid for his life and that it was worse than the insurrection. The loudest voice in the state in the media for progressives, his house was shot up. A bullet went through his 3-year-old's window. That happened. So people are concerned.
Are you concerned? Do you feel safe?
Personally, I know I've had several phone conversations about getting security, and that's something we are going to move forward with. It is just in this moment where you have, it's no longer extremism, because this is just the way they operate, the way that conservatives and Republicans are operating in this state is inherently dangerous. And it's dangerous to our democracy, and it's dangerous to our people, it's dangerous to our families. And so that's something that I am exploring right now. But I do know next week, our movement and our work continues of listening to these voices, of elevating the voices of the children and the teenagers and the parents and the grandparents who keep showing up and saying, let's do something to end gun violence. And so Monday, while I might not be in the House, on the House floor, I would definitely be in the people's house, chanting, singing, speaking, in order that we can get just legislation passed on this.
Any last words?
I just hope the nation sees the moral insanity that a week after a mass shooting terrorized Nashville, I used to represent a part of Nashville, the legislature's response to that grief is not to pass common sense gun laws, but it's to expel their colleagues for calling for action. We were calling for an assault weapons ban. They responded by assaulting democracy. The nation needs to see what's going on in Tennessee.
The nation needs to see what is going on in Tennessee. Representative Johnson, Representative Pearson, Representative Jones, I thank you all for your time and just your voice. As a young millennial black woman from Nebraska, North Omaha, Nebraska, I appreciated seeing you all stand up for those babies and those adults in that school.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We'll keep it up.
Yes, indeed.